Boo. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. So, cards on the table. Way behind this morning. Technical difficulties, all sorts of crazy stuff. I had my Fox 29 hit that I do normally on Fridays as one of the balds, even though I'm about a couple of days late here for the clean shaving bald head. So I wanted to make sure I did more than a 20-minute. I think I did like a 17-minute show this morning. Inexcusable. So we're running it back with part two. We're going to cover the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. We're going to recap some of the stuff that happened in this first matchup in Week 11. Saquon Barkley's numbers, how far away he is from setting the new all-time rushing record, and what a feather in the cap it would be for this Eagles offensive line. What a feather in the cap it would be for Jeff Stoutland and all those who have attended Stoutland University. We'll get into that conversation. We'll talk about the amazing focus of this Philadelphia Eagles team, the amazing focus. And it all goes right back to the head coach. And Nick Sirianni, if there is one thing you could say about him, with the awful exception of last year, the end of last year, starting out the season as often as he had with 3 straight years of 10-2, making the playoffs every single year, that's a coach who knows how to get his team, get his team focused. And that's the number one thing you look at with Nick Sirianni and say, okay, you can talk about the emotional intelligence still, whatever that means. You can also talk about a guy that listens to his players. You can also talk about a guy that, according to Jason Kelce, runs a better meeting, which apparently that matters, runs a better meeting than anyone Jason Kelce has ever played for. So we have a lot to get into. We also want to talk about Marshawn Lattimore coming in here. We'll give you our 5 things that we're going to be looking at in this game in particular. Overall, spoiler, I'm not worried about this game. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think the Eagles win this game. If there's anything I'm looking for the Eagles to do in this game that you didn't see in week 1, in week 11 in their first matchup that I'd like to see in this one, it's a steady run game throughout. Hey, last week we had the pat on the head. Hey, it's going to be okay. The passing game's fine. I like the word that one reporter used during the press conference this week with Kellen Moore, talking about how this team can't allow the passing game to atrophy. And that's exactly what it looked like against the Panthers. Going back, watching the film, and I've said it many times on the show, watching that film, that's exactly what it did. I thought Jalen Hurts also summed it up extremely well after the Panthers game, saying that nobody was on the same page. Going back, watching the film, yeah, nobody, including our hollowed offensive line, they weren't on the same page either. And as we heard, as the week went on, Jordan Mailata even talked about how they didn't know their assignments. There were a couple of plays they didn't understand what was going on for their own part. The quarterback, the receivers, whatever it was, everything was discombobulated. Nothing was in sync. That's a problem. That's allowing the passing game to atrophy. So we had the pat on the head against the Panthers. Like, okay, it's not working out. So you come back against the Steelers, and it worked out beautifully. But this is a game against the Washington Commanders that if there's one thing from Week 11 to now that I want to see different, it's a steady run game throughout. You could run on this team. And yes, I think the Eagles are going to win. I think their best bet to win is to run the football. And it would also help the Eagles get the rushing record. And look, the number one thing is getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's the number one thing, most important thing. But I think the best way to do that is to utilize Saquon Barkley and allow him to run the football. The Eagles didn't get anything going, really, in Week 11 against the Washington Commanders in the early goings of the game. You're talking about Saquon Barkley having about 60 yards of total offense. Hold on, I have the numbers for you, actually. I know it's in the second half of the game. That's when he really, really turned it on. But Barkley, first Washington, had 65 yards of total offense in the first half of that game, which is certainly not nothing. It's on pace for a nice day, But he ended up with 198 yards of total offense and 2 touchdowns. So not much in the first half and a hell of a lot in the second half. In the second half, it also included a nice long reception that he had where he just ran a couple of yards past the line of scrimmage, turn around, boom, balls in his chest from Jalen Hurts on a check down, taking what the defense gives him. And he takes, I think it was about a 35-yard run after the catch, which is nice to see from Saquon Barkley. Other things we'll get into in that game, some other players that stepped up for the Washington Commanders, the biggest difference being Marshawn Lattimore this time around, so we'll get into that conversation. Joel Embiid just might play tonight for the 10-9-8 76ers as they take on the Charlotte Hornets in the 4th game of their 4-game season series. Sixers looking for the sweep. We have Vic Fangio rolling a meatball. We'll get that out to you, of course. And the 76ers look like they are going to build that arena. Although, according to a couple people, look at my notes here, it's not over yet, is the main quote going around. It's the main quote. First and foremost, let's get into the Philadelphia Eagles and Jordan Mailata talking about how focused this football team is. Here he is with a back and forth as to whether or not he knew about even being able to clinch the division with a win over the Commanders this week.
We just that hasn't been the focus. And quite honestly, I didn't know that we had the chance to do that till you brought it up. Because it's not as boring as it sounds, we're just playing our next game. We're just preparing for our next game. And this is a really tough opponent because it's a division game. And so they're a really good team. So right now we're just focusing on that. They're going to give everything they have, and we're going to give everything that we got. So,
Commanders.
All right, everyone's going to give all they got, but they're laser focused on the idea of just winning. The focus for Saquon Barkley, who could break a 40-year-old record, is winning a Super Bowl. The focus for Jordan Mailata, who could lock up a division title, that'd be nice, is not the division title. It's the number one seed in the NFC. And as he said many times, not there, but many times, the Philadelphia Eagles are pushing hard for a Super Bowl victory in the number one seed. Nothing else matters. The other thing that I find interesting is throughout the week, and it's really been going on for the last couple of weeks, and the highlight, or low light, I should say, is A.J. Brown talking about the passing game and how the passing game needs to get on the same page. And then after that, we have, I don't know if A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are friends anymore, And then we have the story most recently come out about Brandon Graham and Dom DeSandro, Big Dom, going out to Jalen Hurts' house during the bye week and telling him that he needs to be more of a leader, essentially. Needs to include everybody in the locker room and whatever. I'm getting the sense, and I really do love the idea of Nick Sirianni drilling into people's heads that the Eagles are boring. I love the idea of Jordan Mailata right there just talked about the Eagles being boring. Because, quite frankly, and I know this goes against every fiber of my being as someone who talks in a microphone about the Philadelphia Eagles, I want this team to, off the field, be boring. Because that boring team is going to get pretty damn close to giving us the biggest party that we can experience in the city, which is a parade celebrating a Super Bowl. And I've got into it before about my first experience with the parade in this city, which was when the Phillies won the World Series in 2008, how incredible that was, how incredible it was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in the 2017-2018 season. That's what I root for. That's ultimately what I want. I don't want drama. I don't want it. There'll be enough to talk about within the game and enough people that want to hear about the game. Like I made the comparison this morning. Elf, the movie Elf, is on heavy rotation right now in the household with the kids, and which makes me, happy because I love the movie, and two, it makes me look forward to the day I can watch Old School with my kids. What happened to Buddy the Elf? Don't worry about it. Anyway, is KFC still open? But if you don't remember the scene in Elf when Rage Cage from Tenacious D, Kyle Gass, I believe is his name, he is given the pitch about the asparagus that's self-conscious about the way their pee smells, and it's a bad pitch. I feel like that's a lot of people right now looking at the Philadelphia Eagles looking for a awful negative take. Like, let's rip the quarterback. Quarterback's playing really well and winning football games. Okay. Let's say that these guys aren't friends anymore. Let's run with that and make sure we keep running with it, even though that was a locker room generated thing by Brandon Graham. All right, let's go with another story where BG and Dom DeSandro has to go to Jalen Hurts' house, and that's the reason for the turnaround. And everyone's self-conscious about the way their pee smells. No, I don't care about any of that. People are throwing crap against the wall trying to make a story about this team other than the fact that they're awesome. So I'd love for the Eagles to go down there in Washington and land over Maryland and just, kick the ass of the Washington Commanders. I don't think it's going to go down like that. I think it's going to be a close game that the Eagles win, but still a game that the Eagles win. I don't need the off-the-field stuff. I don't need the criticism or the drama. It all gets handled, for the most part, in-house unless someone is airing some dirty laundry. So I tell you all that to say that the lead story with the Eagles is not whether or not the quarterback is good enough, because the quarterback is good enough. Statement of fact, the quarterback is good enough to help this team win a Super Bowl. The run game that they have is the most dominant force in all the NFL. That's good enough to win a Super Bowl. The defense is the best defense in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. So when all that is buttoned up and everything's looking good and you've won 10 in a row and soon to be 11 in a row, yeah, I don't really care about anything else. That to me is the lead. The talent, the coaching, the performance, the execution, the winning. And I hate that it's become a cliche now, but winning is the main thing. And when Jalen Hurts is talking about the main thing, keep the main thing the main thing. And I know some people now roll their eyes at that, which is, why? Because it's boring. Yeah, I want a quarterback that isn't concerned about his own numbers. I want a quarterback that's concerned only about whether or not at the end of the game you get to chalk another W next to the game on the schedule. Oh, Commanders, week 16, W. Oh, look at that. That's 11 in a row. That's cool. And then they keep on going. That's the only thing I care about. That in fact, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. And I also love the idea of potentially getting Saquon Barkley the all-time rushing record that has only stood for 40 years, people. On that note, let's just get into this right now. Apologies. I got a case of the sniffles. Saquon Barkley, as of right now, he's on pace for 2,050 yards. He needs 56 yards. He needs to be on pace for 56 more yards to break the record. Okay. So as of right now, he's going to come up 55 yards short about. He needs to average 140 yards per game in order to break the record over the last 3 games. Okay. So he needs another 176 yards, maybe this game, like he had against the Giants. He needs, hey, let's take another 255-yard game like he had against the Rams. That'll be fun. How about another 147 yards on the ground like he had against the Saints? Or, better yet, another 146-yard game like he had in Week 11 against the Washington Commanders. That's what Saquon Barkley needs to break the record. At least get a little bit more on a comfortable pace for the final 3 games. Here's what helps him. The Eagles obviously have something to play for. The Lions, if they keep winning, the Vikings, if they keep winning, this is going to continue to make the Eagles push to win the last 3 games and get that number 1 seed. As long as there is something to play for, play Saquon Barkley. In no way, shape, or form do I think if the Eagles lock up the number 2 seed even, and there's no way that I say, well, okay, we'll keep playing Saquon just to break the record. Hell no. As much as I'd love to see it, you got to sacrifice for the greater good, and the greater good is making sure that Saquon Barkley is healthy enough, healthy and rested and fresh for the postseason. So that's what I look at first and foremost. Earlier in the week, Saquon Barkley did talk about it. He said he knows how close he is, but if it's going to be at the expense of the team, then he doesn't care. The goal is winning a Super Bowl. The goal right now isn't necessarily setting the record. If it happens to happen in the meantime, then more power to him. And I love that attitude. All right. Speaking of that Week 11 game where he had 146 yards, 147 yards on the ground, 198 yards total from scrimmage. Before we get into our 5 things to focus on in this game, let's get into that last matchup. Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders back in Week 11. Thursday night game on Prime. Eagles trailed, if you remember, 10-6 going into the fourth quarter before they came roaring back and just scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. That was pretty amazing. But early goes into the game, the Eagles have a great long drive to open things up and ended up getting squandered on Jake Elliott missing a 44-yard field goal. I think Mekhi Becton also on that drive had a penalty that kind of killed things, but he missed a 44-yard field goal. It'd be the first of 2 field goals he'd miss in the first half. He also later missed a 51-yard field goal in the second quarter. Right before the end of the first half, he made a 21-yarder to give the Eagles their 6 points in the first quarter. So that's the way that went. Or excuse me, the first half. That's the way that one went. But the Eagles opened the fourth quarter of that game. This is when they started to just absolutely light the world on fire. Eagles opened up the fourth quarter by finishing off an 11-play, 76-yard drive that lasted 5 minutes and 26 seconds. It ended with Hurts getting a tush-push touchdown. It made it 12-6. Elliott missed the point after that field goal. Or excuse me, after that touchdown. Also, worth noting that this was one of the first games that Kenny Gainwell really started to chip in. Kenny Gainwell had runs on that drive there that put the Eagles up 12-10 of 14 yards, 13 yards, and 7 yards on that drive. Eagles come back on a 4th and 2. They're going to stop on Jaden Daniels. If you remember, he's lined up in the shotgun on the 4th and 2. He bobbles the snap, breaks to run off to the right. Zach Bond, Reed Blankenship there to make the stop in the fourth quarter. Eagles get the ball back. They go 74 yards over 5 plays for a touchdown, being capped off by Saquon Barkley. Eagles, that was the time they dodged the bullet with Dallas Goedert, who's not going to be playing in this game. Dallas Goedert coming up with that fumble. Grant Calcaterra picked it up, kept the drive alive, and they scored the touchdown. Reed Blankenship gets the interception on the next play, and this leads to the second touchdown in 20 seconds by Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley in that fourth quarter scored 2 touchdowns in 20 seconds. I think it was also a total of 63 yards, I want to say. 63 yards and 2 touchdowns in 20 seconds. That put the game out of hand. And then the Commanders, they had the garbage time touchdown, and that was that. Somebody who played really well in that game wasn't just Zach Bond, but it was also Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean spoke extremely high of Bobby King, a guy who I think is in the not-too-distant future going to become a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Here is Nakobe Dean talking about his linebackers coach.
They have both spoken very highly about Bobby King.
Mm-hmm.
What has he done to help your game?
Oh, man, BK has done a lot, coming from a player who, like me, who's who's real cerebral and trying to look at a lot of the X's and O's to kind of help me. He's kind of, and he is almost complete. I'm not going to say complete opposite. Of course, he look at the X and O's too, but he's more so of a technique guy. He feel like if a linebacker can go out there and not even know the play call and use technique and violence and make a play. So he's kind of harped on me and got me better from a fundamental and technique standpoint, and I'm very grateful for that, for sure.
You get just this week, Jalen Hurts is being asked about Doug Nessmeyer. And look, part of it's a media savvy thing where it's oftentimes it's like a new coach comes in. It's like, hey, what do you like about Nick Nurse that you didn't like about Doc Rivers, or Doc Rivers versus Brett Brown? Remember Brett Brown? And it's like whatever you say that one coach does well, people can already just spin it to, oh, because this guy does that really well, that means the last guy sucked at that. So I understand Jalen Hurts being a little bit more reserved. Hey, what has Doug Nussmeier done for you? Like, what's Coach Nuss done for you that has really expanded your game? He didn't really get into specifics. Nick Sirianni didn't get into specifics because it immediately means that, oh, that means Jalen Hurts sucked at that before Coach Nuss came in and really showed him the way. But Nakobe Dean doesn't do that with this. Like, listen to the way he starts out this answer.
Both spoken very highly about Bobby King.
Mm-hmm.
What has he done to help your game?
Oh, man, BK has done a lot,
Oh man, like like he couldn't wait to start complimenting his position coach. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Bobby King's going to be on the name, or going to be a list. His name's going to be on the list of a couple of different DC jobs. Maybe this year, definitely next year. Talking about what you've seen from Nakobe Dean, talking about what you've seen from Zach Bond, the fact that he has worked under Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio was singing his praises 2 days ago for what he brings to the table. Bobby King, he's going to get some looks around the NFL as a DC in the near future. So look for that name to go around. But when you look overall at what this Eagles team has been able to do, they've been doing some special things, especially when you talk about the matchup here against the Washington Commanders. First and foremost, the defense overall has just been fantastic. You look at the bottom of the screen there, rush yards per game, Eagles 7th fewest rush yards allowed per game. They're going up against the 25th ranked rushing defense, allowing 132 yards per game. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen when they take on Saquon Barkley? Could it be another 146 yards on the ground? I don't know. Stay tuned. But overall, passing game, defense best in the NFL, 173 yards on average per game. Number one, Washington not too far behind, 189. They also do a great job of controlling the clock with their run game. They're the 4th best passing defense in the NFL. They have the 3rd best rushing attack. Eagles, of course, have the best rushing attack. Yards per game on the passing game, Eagles 28th, ranked 28th in the NFL, and I don't care because all that matters is winning, because the main thing is the main thing per sources. The source is Jalen Hurts. And also, as far as passing game for the Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders, they are 16th in the NFL. Eagles +3 in the turnover differential, +5 for the Washington Commanders. Points allowed, Eagles under 18 points per game. Washington Commanders 22.5 points per game. That's middle of the pack in the NFL. Points scored. Look at this. Eagles 8th in the NFL. Commanders 6th in the NFL. That's pretty special. And as far as the home record goes, Washington is 5-2 at home. Eagles 6-1 on the road as they are at home. That's the way that one breaks down. But all in all, you just look at those defensive numbers right there. Top 10 in both categories, top 7 in both categories. That's a pretty special thing. And you know what? They're not too shabby when it comes to the blitz, or not blitz game, but sack game as well. Earlier in the week, I learned, and I knew they were bottom tier. I didn't think they were dead last. The Eagles blitz less than anyone in the NFL. Yet they're top 10 in sacks. How incredible is that? So come get some, fellas. One more thing that I want to point out from week 11 against the Commanders. Saquon Barkley, I mentioned his totals. That was amazing. You know what else was amazing? Terry McLaurin's totals. Next to nothing. It took him an entire half plus. So third quarter, first possession of the third quarter, Cooper DeJean gets called for pass interference. Terry McLaurin gets his first target at 11-11. 11-11 of the first quarter. Jeez. Third quarter. He gets his first target. He doesn't get his first catch until their first possession of the fourth quarter. That was after the Eagles rattled off that 11-play, 76-yard drive that lasted 5 minutes and 27 seconds that put him up 12-10. After that, Terry McLaurin finally got a catch. It was only the second target of the game. So they had a nice job. They did a nice job against Scary Terry. Not so scary Terry. Sheepish Terry? What would be I don't know. Anyway, so he did not have a good game. So that was good. So let's get into the 5 things that I'm really going to be looking at in this game. And some of them do go back to week 11. First thing I'm going to be looking at, Frankie Louvu, their will linebacker. 8 sacks on the season. 2 of them came in week 11 against the Eagles. He had 1 sack, and if you remember, this was ugly. Second quarter of the game, Louvu gets credited with a sack on that double reverse the Eagles tried. Remember that? Watching that game again yesterday made me go, oh, I forgot about that. That was ugly. I forget how it exactly played out, but I think it was AJ to Gainwell. Gainwell flipped to, or maybe it was Smitty, flipped to Jalen. I think it was trips right, motion left. I think with Dotson. They run the reverse, the toss. I think, was it the snap? I think it was, the reverse to the right, or run to the right, reverse to the left, reverse toss to Jalen Hurts. In watching it, it looked like, judging from where the blockers were upfield, it looked like Jalen Hurts was supposed to get that second toss, third toss, I guess, and run to the right. It got blowed up, and Louvu got credited for a sack, and the Eagles were left in something like a 2nd and 22, something like that. So that didn't work, but Louvu is the one that officially broke it up. He has got 9 tackles for loss on the season. Really, the entire linebacking core of the Washington Commanders is something to look at. Dante Fowler Jr. has 12 tackles for loss. That leads the team. Bobby Wagner, 8 tackles for loss. Numbers a little bit down over the last couple of weeks there for him. Dante Fowler's dealing with a groin injury. Supposedly yesterday he was held out of practice just for rest. So not much there, but I think all 3 of these guys are playing in the game, and I think all 3 are going to be bringing it at home and looking to prove a point against the Eagles, who just ran all over them, especially in the second half of the game. But Louisville in particular, then you can also throw the 2 other linebackers there. Bobby Wagner is still having a great year despite his age. Something else I'm going to be looking at in this game, going to the offensive side of the ball, let's not forget about the 3-headed monster that really makes this a top 3 rushing offense in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, all 3 of these guys have 40-yard runs on the season, so either one of these guys can break it. All of them have at least 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. I think one of the things that the Commanders are going to try to do is what you do against really good offensive teams. they're going to try to control the clock. And I think the only way they really do that is by running the football. So activate Brian Johnson, activate Austin Eckler, and obviously Jaden Daniels taking the ball down and running is going to be a big part of this as well. The biggest difference from this game to last are these next two things. And spoiler, because I don't want anybody thinking that I'm picking the Commanders to win this. I'm not. But the two biggest differences to me, number one is Marshawn Lattimore playing in this game. By all accounts and what I was able to watch of Saints and Commanders, there was a USA Today article on the game that said just flat out Marshawn Lattimore erased one side of the field when he was playing against his former team, the New Orleans Saints, last week. He erased one side of the field. All right. So now he's got A.J. Brown. Now he's got Devontae Smith. It's a little bit better than what you have down there in New Orleans. Can he erase that side of the field again? And if he does, will it matter? Will the Eagles be running the football extremely well in this game, going up against such a poor running team or a run defensive team? If he does take away A.J. Brown, will he be able to Devontae Smith still do his thing? All types of stuff like that. The other part of it is that anyone he was covering against the Saints didn't get targeted. I found that to be interesting. Look, you weren't going up against a stellar team in the Saints. I get it. But you're also talking about a guy just getting his legs back under him. So anytime he does what he's expected to do, that's a pretty damn good thing. Also, didn't really show up on the stat sheet against the Eagles in week 3 of this season. And he still participated on a defense that Saquon Barkley ran for. What was it again? Oh, yeah, 147 yards. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, yeah, it's a main difference. So definitely someone to look out for. No doubt about that. And then this is something else that I just think we gloss over too often. And this is something that we need to make sure we're paying attention to. Dan Quinn is no slouch. He's had a lot of success against the Eagles over the years. Cliff Kingsbury is not a slouch. I don't look at him and go, he's terrible at his job or anything like that. Joe Witt was with, he's the defensive coordinator. Joe Witt was with Dan Quinn in Dallas. He was with him in Atlanta. These guys are very familiar with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, does that mean the Philadelphia Eagles are familiar with them as well? Yes, but these guys are experienced coaches in the league. These guys are experienced coordinators in the league. It's just something that I don't gloss over, which is why I don't have the Eagles winning this game by another 28-18 or 28-10 going into the fourth quarter type game. I see this being a lot closer than that. I think the Washington Commanders are a very good football team. I think they have a lot of talent on that football team. I think they're a well-coached football team. I see this game being a little uncomfortable. Eagles also going on the road for the last time this season. I see the Eagles winning this game 24-20. That's the way I see this game playing out. Again, I don't think it's comfortable. I think we're sweating it out. But all in all, I think the Eagles, when push comes to shove, take control in that fourth quarter. I certainly hope the Eagles aren't going in the halftime again down 7-3. And I certainly hope that the Eagles open up things stronger than they did, and they don't need Saquon Barkley to score 2 touchdowns and run for 64 yards in 20 seconds. I hope it's a lot more comfortable than that. But all in all, I think the Eagles win this game 24-20, and they win their 11th straight game. That's the way I see this one playing out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Give me in the comment section, give me your prediction for the Eagles Commanders, what you have for the final score in this one. Looking around the NFL after last night's 34-27 win with the Chargers beating the Broncos. That's the way that one shaped up. Other games that we're going to be paying attention to around the NFL. We obviously want to know what the Lions are doing in this one. They're taking on the Bears in Chicago. Fingers crossed the Lions freeze their manes off. I don't know. And lose that game. Fat chance, but that's what I'll be looking at. And then the Minnesota Vikings are also on the road. They're against the Seattle Seahawks. So, hey, come on. Let's go Seahawks. Let's go. And we do have to pay attention to the Cowboys just for this reason and this reason alone. Micah Parsons, Penn State guy, going to be rooting for Penn State, no doubt, was asked about any Philadelphia love at all.
Nah, at this point, it's Philly now. Even if we got eliminated, I got to crush Philly. I hate them now because I be seeing them just talking so much on socials now. I don't know, my Twitter page got consumed by Philly. Philly fan. Yeah, they say don't look forward to some things, but I'm excited about the matchup too.
Yeah. In case you forgot, that's Micah Parsons. In case you forgot, Micah Parsons plays for the Cowboys. In case you forgot, the Cowboys, they were once called America's team or whatever. In case you forgot, they suck. In case you forgot, they're kind of irrelevant. In case you forgot, they got one more game against the Cowboys this year. And in case you forgot, did I mention they're irrelevant now? Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so Micah Parsons, no love lost when it comes to the city of brotherly love. No love lost when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. There you go. That's fun. Here's something I really love about this Eagles team. And I was thinking about this yesterday because I was watching, what did I catch? I caught my man Dan Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith talking about whether or not Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. Yeah, not the NFL, the NFC. He had Baker Mayfield ahead of him. Yeah, that's right. He had Baker Mayfield ahead of Jalen Hurts. Here's what I absolutely love about Jalen Hurts. And this is what I loved so much about their most recent win last week. I'm really going to try to not reiterate the main thing is the main thing cliche, okay? Because that's what it is now, unfortunately, even though it's really all that matters. Winning is all that matters. My number one takeaway from the Eagles beating the Steelers and Jalen Hurts throwing for 290 yards, having back-to-back games where he threw for a touchdown or threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for 1 touchdown. So 3 touchdowns each over the last 2 games. And let's not forget, the previous game that he also threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for another against the Panthers, let's not forget, he sucked in that game. So his sucky game, he still had 3 touchdowns, 2 of them throwing. So let's just remember that for a second. Then let's talk about this. Jalen Hurts does not care about his numbers. We talk about and judge the hell out of wide receivers and running backs when when they care about their numbers. For instance, if A.J. Brown is talking about not getting enough targets and not getting enough love, and if he's just stating that, he's a prima donna, he's creating drama. If a running back does that, what about the team? It's not about you, it's about the team. But if a quarterback tells you, yeah, it's not about my numbers. This quarterback sucks. Look, his numbers are terrible. They throw fewer than anybody in the NFL. That's more on coaching than it is the quarterback. And that's where I do, as I was saying earlier in the show, believe you can't just let the passing game atrophy because then you have games like you have against the Panthers, which Jalen Hurts played terrible, but still threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for another in a winning effort against the Panthers. And everybody, A.J. Brown was right. He should have clarified. He shouldn't have just said passing and then leaving everything up to interpretation, because I do believe him. It wasn't just about Jalen Hurts struggling. A.J. Brown, there was a couple of plays there, but one was a blocking play that if he holds his block, Saquon Barkley has a first play of the game touchdown against the Panthers, but whatever. We're not talking about blocking in the run game. We're talking about the passing game. There's one play in particular where Jalen Hurts breaks out of the pocket when he felt the pressure, and A.J. runs away from him. He doesn't run with him to be a target. He runs away from him. There was another play where Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts are pointing at each other like neither one knows what stratosphere the other's in, and it ended up being a scramble for Jalen Hurts. He gets up, he's pointing at Devontae Smith, Devontae Smith's pointing at him, and they're just confused. And then you hear from Jordan Mailata in the week following the game, during his media session, talk about as an offensive line, there were certain things where we didn't know what we were doing. And there's a couple of plays that I could highlight when I looked at the all 22 where that was obvious because Jalen just all of a sudden is taken off with the football when there's pressure surrounding him. There's another play in the red zone where both Mailata and Lane Johnson get beat like crazy, and Jalen is left scrambling for his life. And there was the other play where Jalen took, I don't know why he took the sack. It was so stupid that Jalen took the sack. It was a stupid play by Jalen. But the offensive line just got their doors blown off. So if A.J. Brown talked about, hey, our passing game in every aspect, execution, routes, blocking, throwing, everything needs to be worked on. Well, yeah, my point with the only thing I don't like about the Eagles in their low passing, I shouldn't say ranking, not rating, but ranking. The only thing I don't like is that I understand that you have Saquon Barkley running behind Stoutland University. All right, I understand that. And to me, again, it's the most dominant force in the NFL. I understand all that. But when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, this offensive line, and Jalen Hurts, you shouldn't be last in passing either. Like, there's got to be some kind of middle ground. Like, you look at it with the Commanders, as a matter of fact. Commanders that I rattled off for you, or I'll give you the numbers one more time. You look at the Commanders and their numbers, for instance. All right, they got a good running game, but their passing game is middle of the road. That's pretty good. Middle of the road passing game, that's about what I would expect. If you have Saquon behind this offensive line, I would expect them to be number one in the NFL. If you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and yes, this offensive line in the passing game, I would expect you to at worst, be middle of the pack. They have shifted way too much to a run-first team where you can't do that simply because throughout the season, you're not practicing like you used to in the olden times. So you need to keep that offensive passing game sharp because, yes, you will need that in the playoffs. The thing I loved and was my main takeaway from the win over the win over the Steelers was that Jalen told you leading up to the game. Jalen Hurts told you leading up to the game, hey, yeah, whatever it takes to win. But, like, if we need to pass to win, we can do it. They had that one game against the Panthers where nothing was in sync. Nothing was in rhythm. Nobody was on the same page. And then they had the game against the Steelers, where you threw for 290 yards all of a sudden. Not too bad. 2 receivers had over 100 yards. Not too bad. He literally said, go, gadget passing game, and had 290 yards. That's pretty damn good. And then what was it that Jalen said after the game?
So that's what y'all wanted to see, huh?
Love it. Absolutely love it. How do I go this long in the second installment of the Farsi Show today and not play for you what the people want? All in all, Jaden Daniels. All in all, Brian Robinson. All in all, Austin Eckler. All in all, Terry McLaurin. I think Vic Fangio is cooking up a spicy meatball for you. Thank you, N'Kobe Dean. I don't know where that came from, but N'Kobe Dean posted it on social media this week. Oh. Now, I'm going to be in the kitchen a lot this coming week. Monday, Tuesday, Christmas Eve, 7 fish. Big deal in my house. I'm thinking of doing something a little different. A little arancini. I'm going to make an arancini. For those that don't know, the rice ball or the risotto ball, if you will. I'm not Sicilian. It's a Sicilian traditional dish, but I love it. My family's from just across the strait, Messina Strait in Calabria, Testadone. But I'm going to do an arancini, and I'm going to do a little curveball to it. I'm going to stuff the arancini with a scallop, okay, for the 7 fish. A little scallop stuffed arancini. I'll let you know how it goes. That's me to me. Hey, speaking of... those 10-9-8-76ers got approval for the stadium, for the arena, between 11th and 10th on Market Street, stretching up to Filbert as well. Yeah, I got a take on it. People don't like my take. I'm in such the minority here. As I have addressed this every time I've talked about it, generally speaking, and I've been around the country. I've been in plenty of downtown arenas and stadiums, and I love them. Love the downtown arena. Love the downtown stadium. I love the idea of going to a game or having a game to go to on any given day, and then being able to walk around a city, being able to spend my money, bars, restaurants, some people, the hotels, whatever. I love the economic development that a stadium can bring to an area, especially in a situation like this where it's a new venue. Generally speaking, I love the idea. However, I'm not a moron. I need to know how it's going to work. All right? Like, I'd love to have a lazy river in my backyard. I could just float around on a warm summer day. That doesn't mean logistically it's a good idea. Okay? Generally, is it a good idea? Oh, who wouldn't want a lazy river in their backyard? You know what I'm saying? Smoking a cigar, going around on a hot summer day. It'd be beautiful. However, there are other things you have to factor in here. Transportation. What are we doing? Anything to help people trying to get to Jefferson Hospital? Anything like that? Chinatown. Who else was opposing it? Chinatown and Washington Square West. Washington Square West. People from those groups saying it's not over yet. And it's not. They're still going to fight tooth and nail, through and through, to make sure that this project doesn't go through. The project's more likely than not. It's all but going through. The final approval, there's still some hurdles that they have to jump through, but this is going to happen. The city, meaning the government, city government, wants this to happen. As a sports fan, I am thrilled to one day in 2031, I believe it is, to have the experience that I've had in so many other cities across the country of going to a game, walking around the city, getting done a game, going out back into the city. I am thrilled for that experience. I am thrilled for what it will mean for the jobs and all that stuff in the city, from a union perspective. I love what it means for the bars and restaurants. I love what it means for, in a post-COVID world, bringing people back into the city to spend their money, the economic development there. I love all that. But like, it's not lost on me that this is going to be a very rough go of it for Chinatown. It's not lost on me that they still have to factor in the transportation and being able to get to the hospital. When I heard SEPTA was asking for like another $21 million for the trains and subways and all that, running more of them, especially on game days, I was like, well, let's make sure we get some things ironed out here, people. Also, they don't know yet when the construction starts, like how the traffic patterns are going to go. Like, people talking about gridlock traffic. I'm more concerned about traffic during the construction of the stadium than I am when the stadium's up and running. 1,000 times. Because what happens in other cities is that people park throughout the city and they spend their money around the city, which is great. But people park throughout the city, which means that there's not necessarily gridlock traffic for hours in one area. It gets spread out. And people park around the city. So it's not just one aspect of the city that gets major congestion. But you got to plan all this stuff out. I get the feeling, and everything that I've read about the situation, that this is a half-baked idea that looks like it's full steam ahead. What are the traffic patterns? Are they going to be flipping lanes like they do in other cities to lead? You know, if one side of the stadium goes to Jersey, the other side of the stadium goes to 676. Like, what's all this going to look like? Oh, I'm talking about Market Street. So what's that going to look like? There's a lot that still has to be ironed out for me to give my own final stamp of approval. Generally speaking, yes, I love the idea. But what are we doing about helping the transportation in the area? What are we doing to make sure that people that can't name one Sixers player aren't affected greatly by this? What are we doing? Look, I'm all for what it could do for a city. But when it comes to the other side of it, it's not lost on me at all. The arguments of Chinatown, Washington Square West, it's that part of it is not lost. With that being said, a couple of things that I gathered. One of the council members that actually voted for it called this a midway point. So if anyone's saying, like Chinatown, for instance, it's not over yet, they're saying, yeah, we still got a long way to go. Transit approval still pending, as I mentioned. Construction to begin in 2026. But there's no plan yet for what the traffic patterns will be during construction. Legislation is in place for public safety. One of the big things that I talked about wasn't, aside from just transportation, one of the big things I talked about leading up to the approval here was, okay, I love the idea. What's traffic going to look like and public safety? Because I don't know if you read the papers and stuff. Philadelphia is not exactly the safest city in our country. All right. There's a reason I unfortunately had to move out of Philadelphia. My wife looked at me and said, I don't feel safe anymore. And I'm like, there's no counter argument to that with 3 shootings on my block. and 2 young kids. So we left. So what's the public safety going to look like for the people like myself and people in the city in general that are going to be going to games? $17.5 million supposedly will go into public safety around the arena. Also, the Sixers agreed to pay $60 million in community benefits. So the city said that $60 million was going to be their floor. The Sixers offered 50. And the city said, our floor is 60. And then the Sixers said, okay, 60. That doesn't sound like, from a city's perspective, the best possible negotiating tactic. Okay. So they literally, the ceiling at the, I like the way the Inquirer wrote it. The city, the ceiling became the floor. Or no, sorry, the floor became the ceiling. Funny how that works. Also, Sherelle Parker, mayor of Philadelphia, said that they're going to set aside from the $60 million, they're going to set aside $20 million in city money for affordable housing. And that's going to be over, I think, a 30-year period. So there you go. There you go. That's what we're looking at right there. That seems like it's stretched out pretty thin. Pretty thin. All in all, I've always wanted a downtown arena. I've always wanted to be able to show off the city to people coming in for games. When I've read about other projects, Sacramento being one of them, they talked about how the economic development wasn't there because all they did was move money around. This is a different scenario in that the Wells Fargo Center still exists, and now you're going to have another arena. So will those two cancel each other out? I don't think so. I don't see why you wouldn't have an event at the Wells Fargo Center and then have an event also at 76 places it's being called. So that's more money being made. And I've always loved the idea, and I've brought up Baltimore before because my mom's from down there, and I went to plenty of Orioles games as a kid. My grandfather was actually an usher, for those that don't know, was an usher for the Orioles for like 25 years. So I went to a couple games at Memorial Stadium when I was really little. A woman poured beer on me by accident, allegedly. And then when Camden Yards opened up, like I just remember, like you had in the Inner Harbor, I remember you had the aquarium and you had a mall with a Hooters in it. And then that was it. And then Camden Yards was built. The Inner Harbor area started to get revitalized. Now, don't get me wrong. You walk a couple of blocks away from the Inner Harbor area, and it ain't so great. But Camden Yards came down there. You had the aquarium already. Next thing you know, like there was this boom with, and I know these aren't appealing now, 30 years later, but you had Barnes & Noble, you had the Hard Rock Cafe, you had the not Gaslamp, that's San Diego, another great downtown area around stadium. You had Power Plant District shoot up. Then the casino opened up down there. M&T Bank Stadium went down there as well. And like the Inner Harbor's great now. Like I would love to see something like that happen with Market East. Would absolutely love to see something like that happen. And a mall ain't going to do it. And a stadium certainly could. And I would love that experience. The city still has a hell of a lot to be worked out. And if SEPTA's asking for more money, you got to give SEPTA more money. So, yeah, do I long for the experience of taking in a game and then walking around the city? Absolutely. City's still got a long way to go to make sure this is smooth as possible. Speaking of the 76ers, Joel Embiid might play tonight against the Hornets. I hope he does. Let's play. Sixers going for their 4th straight win against the Hornets. Also their 9th win of the season overall. I hope that's something that happens. Flyers, good God, man. Flyers, 7-4 losers last night to the LA Kings. That ain't cool. 14-15-4 now on the season. Sorry, 7-3 losers to the Kings last night. That's not cool. Don't like that even a little bit. Let's get to the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine. Something I wasn't able to do this morning. Let's get to the chat check and see what we're doing. Charles Dead, what's going on? Eagles, if the Eagles win, we're streaking. There you go. Frank Ricard. Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Malik Johnson, what a pleasant surprise. I know, I'm running 2-a-days, folks. I'm like Andy Reid at Lehigh, running 2-a-days. Thought 316. Hey, Farzy. Hey. 3 fought, bought, 316. Kevin, what's going on? Nice to see you. 6-1, of course. It's the one damn game I went to. That's right. That's the game you went to. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. 10:30 a.m. Farzy must be 13 espressos. How about 13 espressos? What are you talking? No, I'm fine. I feel fantastic. For those just joining us, I started doing I did my show for 17 minutes this morning. There's a lot happened. Full disclosure. Technical difficulty followed by, or preceded by, leaving it a little too much, followed by, the technical difficulty was a cat pulling wires out. But now I have a door installed. I have a door installed that the cat can't get through. So I was like, I can't do a 17-minute show on a football Friday. I love my people too much. So here we are. I like what we saw, obviously, against the Steelers, but I didn't think the passing under 300 yards for 1 week should make everyone that smug afterwards. I love Jalen, but came out acting like he just threw for 1,200 yards in 3 games with 12 touchdowns. Yeah, I get that part of it. John Messina. I'd mentioned the Messina Strait seconds ago. Nice to see you. Welcome back, Rory's scratching post. Yeah, I know, right? Rory's crazy. Won't see her no more. No, Rory is not going to be scratching down here. I put essentially a cover over the gate so she can't finagle her little body through. Yeah, that's right. It's Rory proof now, people. This studio is cat proof. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful, as per usual. Hey, thanks for joining me on the second of 2 Farzy shows today. This one, a lot better than the first one, I'll say. Oh, wait, no, there's one more thing I forgot. Max Kepler got signed by the Phillies there. 1 year, $10 million. Okay. That does nothing for me. But he had a good year like 5 years ago. Cool. Does nothing. He's a good defender. Okay. Doesn't strike out as much. Can really hit lefties, apparently. No, not really. He had a good year 5 years ago. Good talk. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Eagles win 24-20. Sixers, I'm going to say Embiid plays tonight. He drops 30. And the Sixers win. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hey, I'll be with you guys tonight on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. Make sure you like and subscribe to Locked On Sports Philadelphia, where I'll be bringing you your 76ers postcasts after each and every game. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Farzy Show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel as well. Me, Seth Gunner, breaking down Eagles for you, pre and post. And also my friends Harry Mays and Jason Martinez on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. They got you covered for your for your Eagles postcasts as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hit like and subscribe on the Farzy Show YouTube channel. I'll be back with you guys tonight following Sixers. Following Sixers and some other team. Sixers Hornets. I'll be back with you guys tonight on Locked On Sports Philadelphia after that 76ers victory. Yeah, let's get cocky. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Things have changed. Here we go. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. In the meantime,
So that's what y'all want to see, huh?